The metal door hissed open, and Commander Jake Morrison stepped into the cold interrogation room. The air smelled of recycled oxygen and fear. Bright white lights hung from the ceiling, casting harsh shadows across the bare walls. In the center of the room sat a creature that looked like nothing from Earth. Zephyr was huge. His body stretched nearly 8 feet tall, covered in dark green armor that seemed to be part of his skin. 4 arms hung from his shoulders, each ending in sharp claws. His head was triangular, with compound eyes that reflected the light like broken glass. 2 antennae moved slowly on top of his skull, twitching at every sound. The alien sat perfectly still. Heavy metal restraints held all 4 arms to the chair. His legs were chained to the floor. He had been sitting like this for 3 weeks without saying a single word. Morrison pulled up a chair and sat down across from the prisoner. He opened a file folder and spread photos across the table. Images of burned cities, destroyed ships, and human bodies filled the space between them. "Look at these pictures," Morrison said, his voice hard. "Your people did this. They killed thousands of humans on New Boston. Children died in those fires." Zephyr's eyes moved to the photos and back to Morrison's face. He said nothing. Morrison leaned forward. "We know you're a high-ranking officer. Your armor tells us that much. You were captured during the raid on our supply depot. You must know something about your fleet's next move." Still nothing. The alien's face showed no emotion. Morrison slammed his hand on the table. "Damn it, we need information. Your people are planning something big. We can feel it. Our scouts report ship movements all along the border. If you tell us what you know, we can end this war faster. Less people will die." Zephyr blinked slowly. His antenna twitched once. That was all. The door opened again. Lieutenant Amy Foster walked in, carrying a cup of coffee and a data pad. She was young, maybe 25, with short brown hair and kind eyes. She wore the blue uniform of the linguistics department. "Commander, maybe I could try a different approach," she said quietly. Morrison stood up and gathered his photos. "He's all yours, Lieutenant, but don't expect much. This bug hasn't said a word since we brought him in." Amy took Morrison's chair and set her coffee on the table. She looked at Zephyr for a long moment, then smiled. "Hello," she said. "My name is Amy Foster. I'm not here to ask you questions about the war. I just want to talk." The alien's compound eyes focused on her face. His antenna stopped moving. "I study languages," Amy continued. "I've been learning about your people for 2 years now. Your language is beautiful. All those clicking sounds and musical tones. It's like nothing we have on Earth." She pulled out her data pad and touched the screen. Strange sounds came from the device. Clicks, whistles, and deep humming noises filled the room. "That's a song from your homeworld, isn't it?" Amy said. "We picked it up from one of your communication satellites. Our computers can't translate the words, but the melody is lovely." For the first time since his capture, Zephyr's head moved. He tilted it slightly to the left, like a dog hearing a familiar sound. Amy took a sip of her coffee. "I come from a place called Montana. It's a big state with lots of mountains and open sky. The air is clean there, and you can see stars at night that you can't see in the cities. Do you have places like that on your world?" Zephyr's antenna began to move again, but differently now. They seemed to be following the rhythm of her voice. "I grew up on a farm," Amy went on. "We raised cattle and grew wheat. Every morning I would walk to the barn to milk the cows. The sun would come up over the mountains, and everything would turn gold. Those were good times." She paused and looked at the alien's face. "Do you have farms where you come from? Do you grow food, or do you hunt for it?" Zephyr's mouth opened slightly. Amy could see rows of sharp teeth inside, but she didn't look afraid. "I know you understand English," she said. "You've been listening to our radio signals for months before you attacked. Your people are smart. They wouldn't send soldiers into battle without teaching them our language first." The alien's eyes moved from Amy's face to her hands, then back to her eyes. "I'm not your enemy," Amy said softly. "I know we're at war, but I don't hate you. I don't even know you. All I know is that you're far from home, probably scared, and definitely alone." She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small device. "This is a music player. It has songs from all over Earth. Would you like to hear some?" Zephyr watched. As she pressed a button, soft piano music filled the room. It was slow and sad, like a lullaby. "This is called Moonlight Sonata," Amy said. "A human named Beethoven wrote it over 200 years ago. He was deaf when he composed it. He couldn't hear the music, but he could feel it in his heart." The alien's antenna moved in time with the music. His breathing seemed to slow down. Amy let the song play for several minutes. When it ended, she turned off the device. "Music is strange, isn't it?" she said. "It doesn't mean anything, but it makes us feel things. Humans have been making music for thousands of years. Even before we had words, we had songs." She stood up and walked to the small window in the wall. Through the thick glass, she could see the stars. "I wonder what your people sing about," she said. "Do you have love songs? War songs? Songs about missing home?" She turned back to Zephyr. His compound eyes were watching her every move. "I miss my home," she said. "I've been on this ship for 8 months. I dream about Montana sometimes. The smell of grass in the morning, the sound of wind through the trees. Simple things that meant everything to me." She sat back down and looked directly into the alien's eyes. "What do you miss about your home?" Zephyr's mouth moved. No sound came out, but Amy could see his throat working. He was trying to speak. "Take your time," she said. "There's no rush." The alien's antenna stopped moving. His whole body seemed to tense up. Then, in a voice like grinding metal, he spoke his first words. "Your species fights differently than we expected." Amy felt her heart skip. After 3 weeks of silence, the alien had finally spoken. She forced herself to stay calm. "How do we fight differently?" she asked. Zephyr closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, Amy thought she saw something like sadness in their depths. "You do not abandon your wounded," he said. Amy Foster sat forward in her chair. The alien's words hung in the air between them like a bridge that might break if she moved too quickly. She had waited 3 weeks for this moment, and now she had to be careful not to waste it. "What do you mean we don't abandon our wounded?" she asked softly. Zephyr's compound eyes studied her face. His antenna moved slowly, as if he was thinking hard about how to explain something that confused him. "In battle," he said, his voice like rocks grinding together, "when one of your soldiers falls, the others risk their lives to save him. This makes no sense to us." Amy nodded, encouraging him to continue. "On the mining world, you call Kepler 442b. I watched your people fight," Zephyr went on. "We had surrounded a group of human soldiers. They were cut off from their main force. We expected them to surrender or retreat." He paused, looking at his chained hands. "But one of your soldiers was hurt, a young male with blood on his legs. He could not walk. The others could have escaped through the canyon behind them. Instead, they stayed to fight." Amy felt her breath catch. She knew about the battle on Kepler 442b. It had been a disaster. Only 12 humans had survived out of a unit of 40. "I remember watching through my scope," Zephyr continued. "A female soldier. She had yellow hair and sergeant marks on her uniform. She ran across open ground while we were shooting at her. The ground exploded around her feet. She reached the wounded male and dragged him to safety. Amy pulled out her datapad and scrolled through battle records. "Sergeant Lisa Campbell," she said. "She died getting that soldier to the medical station." "Yes," Zephyr said. "She died. But the wounded male lived." This confused my unit commander. He said humans were stupid to waste a good soldier for a broken one. The alien's antenna twitched. But I kept thinking about it. Why did she do that? In our army, we would have left the wounded soldier. The strong survive. The weak are left behind. This is the way of war. Amy set down her datapad. We don't see it that way. Every human life matters to us. We don't leave people behind. This is what I began to understand, Zephyr said. Your people fight harder when their friends are. In danger, not weaker, harder. He shifted in his chair, the metal restraints clanking. After the battle, we took prisoners. Wounded humans who could not fight anymore. Our doctors are good. They could have let your people die, but they did not. Amy looked surprised. Your doctors treated our wounded? Yes, and this confused me more. But then I saw something that changed my mind about everything. Zephyr's eyes seemed to focus on something far away. We brought the prisoners to our medical station. Human. Doctors were there too, prisoners from earlier battles. They were forced to work on wounded Catherian soldiers. He paused, his breathing becoming heavier. I watched a human doctor work on one of my unit members. This human had been captured 2 months before. His own leg was broken and not healed properly. He could barely walk. But he worked to save my friend's life. Amy felt tears forming in her eyes. He treated your wounded even though you were enemies. Yes, he worked for 6 hours. He used his knowledge to repair damage that our doctors could not fix. My friend lived because of this human doctor. Zephyr's antenna stopped moving completely. Later, I asked this doctor why he helped us. He said something I did not understand then. He said, "A doctor helps the sick. It does not matter what species they are." Amy wiped her eyes. What was the doctor's name? He told me his name was Dr. Paul Wright. He said he had children back on Earth. 2 daughters. He showed me a picture. Amy made a note on her datapad. She would find out about Dr. Wright later. This doctor changed how I thought about humans. Zephyr continued. Our leaders told us you were savages, wild animals who killed for pleasure. But Dr. Wright was not a savage. He was kind even to his enemies. The alien looked directly at Amy. I began to watch human behavior more carefully. In every battle, I saw the same things. Humans who risked their lives for others. Humans who shared their food with prisoners. Humans who cried when their friends died. He paused again. My people do not cry for the dead. We honor them, but we do not weep. Death is part of war, but humans mourn every loss, even the loss of enemies. Amy felt a chill run down her spine. You saw humans mourn for your dead? Yes. After the battle at New Austin Colony, I watched human soldiers bury Catherian bodies with respect. They did not throw them away or burn them. They dug graves and marked them with stones. Zephyr's voice became quieter. One human soldier, a captain with red hair, he stood over the graves and spoke words. I could not hear what he said, but his head was bowed. He was showing respect to dead enemies. Amy looked at her notes. The battle at New Austin had been brutal. Civilians had died. Whole families had been wiped out. But your people killed civilians at New Austin, she said. Children died. Zephyr's antenna drooped. Yes, and this troubled many of us. Our orders were to take the colony quickly. But the humans fought back. Not just soldiers. Farmers, teachers, people who worked in shops. They all picked up weapons. He shook his head slowly. We expected them to surrender when they saw they could not win. Instead, they fought harder. Parents died protecting their children. Old people stood in front of young ones. Everyone fought. Amy felt anger rise in her chest. So you killed them all? We killed many, but not all. And what happened after confused us even more. Zephyr met her eyes. The humans who survived, they did not seek revenge on our prisoners. They gave them food and water. They treated their wounds. Some of our soldiers were badly hurt. Human children brought them medicine. The alien's voice grew softer. Children, small humans whose parents we had killed. They still showed kindness to us. I could not understand this. Amy felt her anger fade into something else. Sadness, maybe. Or hope. One little girl, Zephyr continued. She brought water to a dying Catherian soldier. She could not have been more than 6 years old. The soldier was the same one who had destroyed her home. He paused. Before he died, this soldier told me something. He said the little girl reminded him of his own children back on her homeworld. He said he was ashamed of what he had done. Amy looked at the alien sitting across from her. For the first time, she saw him not as a monster, but as a person trying to understand something that didn't make sense to him. What did you think about all this? She asked. Zephyr was quiet for a long moment. I thought that maybe our leaders were wrong about humans. Maybe you are not the savages they said you were. Maybe you were something else entirely. He looked down at his chained hands. Maybe you were better than us. Amy Foster returned to the interrogation room the next morning with 2 cups of coffee. She placed one in front of Zephyr, even though his hands were still chained to the chair. The alien looked at the steaming cup with curiosity. It's coffee, Amy said, sitting down across from him. A human drink. We make it from beans that grow on Earth. It helps us stay awake and think clearly. Zephyr's antenna moved toward the cup, taking in the smell. We have something similar on our world. We call it Jektar. It is made from the roots of blue plants. Amy smiled. Do you miss it, Jektar? Yes, Zephyr said simply. I miss many things about home. Amy sipped her coffee and watched. The alien's face. Yesterday had been a breakthrough, but she could sense there was much more he wanted to say. You mentioned that our leaders were wrong about humans, she said. What exactly did they tell you about us? Zephyr's compound eyes focused on her. They said humans were weak, that you fought only for yourself, not for others. They said you would break easily under pressure. He paused, his antenna twitching. They said you had no honor, that you killed for pleasure and destroyed worlds for profit. They called you the savage swarm that spread across the galaxy like a disease. Amy felt a cold knot form in her stomach. But you don't believe that anymore. No, Zephyr said firmly. I have seen too much to believe their lies. He shifted. In his chair, the metal restraints clinking. The truth is, my leaders know they were wrong. They have always known. Amy set down her coffee cup. What do you mean? Reports from the front lines have been coming back for months. Every battle commander sends information to the High Command. But the High Command changes these reports before they reach the regular soldiers. Zephyr's voice grew harder. I have seen the real reports. My rank gave me access to classified information. The truth is that humans are winning this war. Amy felt her heart race. Winning? But our command says we're barely holding the line. Your command is being careful. They do not want to make your people too confident. But from our side, the situation is clear. Human forces exceed our projections in every category. Zephyr looked directly at Amy. Your industrial capacity is 3 times what we estimated. Your ships are being built faster than we can destroy them. Your technology adapts to our weapons within weeks of each battle. He paused. But most importantly, your people refuse to surrender. We expected the war to last 6 months. It has been 3 years, and humans fight harder now than when it began. Amy leaned forward. Why haven't your leaders told their people this? Because they are afraid. If Kitherian soldiers knew the truth, many would question why we are fighting at all. Some already do. Zephyr antenna drooped. I told you about the battle at New Austin Colony. What I did not tell you is what happened to my unit afterward. Half of my soldiers requested transfers to non-combat positions. They did not want to fight humans anymore. Amy felt a glimmer of hope. Because they saw how humans treated prisoners? Yes, and because they began to ask questions. If humans are truly savage, why do they show mercy? If they are weak, why do they fight so hard for each other? If they have no honor, why do they risk their lives for strangers? Zephyr looked down at his chained hands. I began to ask these questions too, and I found answers that my leaders did not want me to find. Amy waited for him to continue. There was a human pilot, Zephyr said, Captain Ryan Clark. His ship was damaged in a battle near the asteroid belt. He was drifting in space, running out of air. The alien's eyes seemed to focus on something far away. A Kitherian transport ship found him. It was not a military vessel. It carried supplies and medical equipment. The captain could have left the human to die. Instead, he brought Captain Clark aboard. Amy felt tears form in her eyes. He saved an enemy pilot? Yes, but that is not the most important part of this story. Zephyr's voice became quieter. While Captain Clark was recovering on the transport ship, pirates attacked. Not human pirates. Not Kitherian pirates. A third species that raids both our territories. Amy gripped her coffee cup tighter. The transport ship had no weapons. No shields. It was defenseless. Captain Clark could have stayed hidden in the medical bay. He could have waited for the pirates to leave. Instead, he asked for access to the ship's communication system. Zephyr's antenna began to move faster. He contacted his own fleet. He told them about the pirate attack. He guided human rescue ships to our location. He risked his own life to save the Kitherian crew that had helped him. Amy felt her breath. Catch, he saved his enemies? Yes, and when the human rescue ships arrived, they drove off the pirates. They could have captured the Kitherian transport. Instead, they escorted it to safety and let it go. Zephyr looked directly at Amy. This story spread throughout the Kitherian fleet. Soldiers began to talk. They began to wonder what kind of enemy saves the people who save them. Amy wiped her eyes. What happened to your soldiers who heard this story? Many of them started to question their orders. Some refused to attack civilian targets. Others began to treat human prisoners with respect. Zephyr's voice grew sad. My unit commander reported this to the High Command. He said morale was dropping. He requested new propaganda to remind soldiers why we were fighting. Amy felt a chill run down her spine. What did they tell him? They said that stories like Captain Clark's were human tricks. They said humans were clever liars who used kindness as a weapon. They ordered all soldiers to ignore such stories. Zephyr shook his head, but I had seen too much. I knew these were not tricks. I had watched humans mourn their dead. I had seen them care for wounded enemies. I had witnessed their courage in battle. He paused. I began to realize that if humans were not the savages we were told about, then maybe we were the savages. Maybe we were the ones spreading across the galaxy like a disease. Amy felt her heart breaking for the alien sitting across from her. She could see the pain in his compound eyes. I started to have dreams, Zephyr continued. Dreams about the human children I had seen. Dreams about the doctors who saved our wounded. Dreams about Captain Clark guiding rescue ships to save his enemies. He looked down at his hands. I began to wonder if the war was wrong. If we were wrong. Amy reached across the table, stopping just short of touching the alien's chained hands. What made you finally decide? Zephyr antenna stopped moving completely. I received orders for a new mission. A mission that would end the war quickly. The High Command said it was our only chance for victory. Amy felt ice form in her veins. What kind of mission? Zephyr looked up at her, and she saw something that looked like shame in his eyes. They wanted me to help them identify targets for a weapon that would kill millions of humans at once. Not soldiers. Not military targets. Civilians. Children. Everyone. Amy's coffee cup fell from her hand and shattered on the floor. They wanted me to help them commit genocide, Zephyr whispered. He looked directly at Amy. That is when I knew I could not serve the High Command anymore. That is when I decided to get captured. I let your forces take me because I needed to warn you. Amy stared at the alien, her mind racing. You let us capture you? You came here on purpose? Zephyr nodded slowly. I came here to tell you about the weapon, to help you stop it, to save both our species from the evil that my leaders want to unleash. He met her eyes. I came here to switch sides in this war. Amy Foster stared at Zephyr, her mind struggling to process what she had just heard. The broken coffee cup lay in pieces at her feet, but she barely noticed. The alien's words echoed in her head. Genocide weapon, millions dead, switch sides. Tell me about this weapon, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Zephyr's compound eyes closed for a moment. When he opened them, Amy saw something that looked like fear. It is a biological weapon, he said slowly. Something that attacks the human immune system. Your doctors would call it a virus, but it is designed in laboratories, created to kill. Amy felt sick. How does it work? It spreads through the air. One infected person can spread it to hundreds of others in a single day, but humans who catch it do not die right away. They become sick slowly, over weeks. Zephyr's antenna moved nervously. The weapon is designed to overwhelm human medical systems. Too many sick people, not enough doctors or medicine. Whole cities would collapse under the weight of dying people. Amy grabbed her datapad with shaking hands. How long do we have? The attack is planned for 7 days from now. Multiple strikes on your most populated worlds. Earth, New Terra, Colony Prime, and 15 other major planets. The numbers hit Amy like a physical blow. Those worlds held over 2 billion people. Combined. Why are you telling me this? She asked. Zephyr looked down at his chained hands. Because I have seen what humans really are. Because I know this weapon will not just kill soldiers. It will kill children like the little girl who brought water to my dying friend. It will kill doctors like Dr. Paul Wright, who saved Catherian lives. His voice grew harder. It will kill people like you, Amy Foster, who showed kindness to an enemy prisoner. Amy stood up and walked to the communication panel on the wall. Her fingers hovered over the emergency call button. Wait, Zephyr said. There is more you need to know. Amy turned back to him. The weapon is stored in a facility on the moon of Kepler 438c. It is heavily guarded. Your military could not destroy it with a normal attack. Too many defenses. Amy felt a small spark of hope. But you know. A way in? I was part of the team that designed the security system. I know the guard schedules, the weak points, and the access codes. But most importantly, I know how to safely destroy the weapon without releasing it into the atmosphere. Zephyr met. Her eyes. I can help you stop this, but you must trust me. Amy hit the emergency call button. Within minutes, Commander Morrison burst into the room, followed by 3 other officers. Lieutenant Foster, what's the situation? Morrison demanded. Amy took a deep breath. Sir, We have a problem. A big one." She quickly explained what Zephyr had told her. As she spoke, she watched the color drain from Morrison's face. "A biological weapon?" Morrison said when she finished. "Targeting civilian populations?" "Yes, sir," Amy replied. "But Zephyr says he can help us stop it." Morrison looked at the alien with suspicion. "How do we know this isn't a trick? How do we know he's not feeding us false information?" Zephyr spoke up. "Because I have proof." The alien turned his head toward his left shoulder. Amy noticed a small device attached to his armor that she had missed before. "That is a data storage unit," Zephyr said. "It contains the complete plans for the biological weapon, including target locations, timeline, and facility schematics." Morrison looked at his officers. "Can we remove it safely?" "We can try, sir," one of them replied. 20 minutes later, the device was removed and connected to a human computer. The information it contained made everyone in the room go silent. Maps of human worlds, with red targets marked over major cities. Technical specifications for a virus that would kill slowly and spread quickly. Guard rotations and security protocols for a facility hidden on a distant moon. "This is all real," Morrison said quietly. "The attack is scheduled for 6 days from now." Amy looked at Zephyr. "Why did you keep this information hidden? Why didn't you tell us immediately?" "Because I needed to know if you would listen," Zephyr replied. "If you would see me as more than just an enemy. This information is useless if you do not trust me enough to act on it." Morrison studied the alien for a long moment. "What exactly are you proposing?" "A joint mission," Zephyr said. "Human soldiers and me, working together. I guide you through the facility's defenses. You provide the firepower and expertise to destroy the weapon safely." One of Morrison's officers spoke. "Up, sir, this could be a trap. We could be walking into an ambush." "Yes," Morrison agreed. "But if we do nothing, 2 billion people die in 6 days." Amy stepped forward. "Commander, I believe him. I've spent hours talking to Zephyr. He's not lying about this." Morrison looked at the data on the screen. Target locations, weapon specifications, guard schedules. Everything was too detailed to be fake. "What would you need from us?" Morrison asked Zephyr. "A small team," the alien replied. "No more than 12 people. Scientists to handle the weapon disposal, soldiers to deal with security, and technical experts to shut down the facility's systems." Morrison nodded slowly. "And you would come with us?" "Yes. I know the facility better than anyone. Without me, your people would not reach the weapon in time." Amy looked at Morrison. "Sir, what about the restraints? If he's going to help us, we need to trust him." Morrison was quiet for a long moment. Everyone in the room watched him think. "Remove the restraints," he finally said. The officers looked shocked. "Sir, are you sure?" "If he wanted to hurt us, he wouldn't have given us information about the weapon," Morrison replied. "And if this is a trap, we're dead anyway." Amy felt her heart race as the metal restraints were removed from Zephyr's arms and legs. The alien moved slowly, flexing his forearms and stretching his legs. "Thank you," he said simply. Morrison looked at him seriously. "Don't make me regret this decision." Zephyr stood up to his full height of 8 feet. Even without the restraints, he looked strange and dangerous. But when he spoke, his voice was gentle. "Commander Morrison, I give you my word. I will help you save those human lives, or I will die trying." Amy felt tears in her eyes. 3 weeks ago, this alien had been there. Enemy. Now he was risking everything to save human children he had never met. "We'll need to move fast," Morrison said. 6 days isn't much time to plan and execute a mission like this. "The journey to Kepler 438c takes 3 days," Zephyr replied. "That gives us 2 days to prepare and 1 day to complete the mission," Morrison nodded. Then we start now. Lieutenant Foster, you'll be part of the team. We'll need someone who can communicate with our new ally. Amy looked at Zephyr. Are you ready for this? The alien's antenna moved slowly. I have been ready since the moment I decided to betray my own people to save yours. He paused. The question is, are you ready to trust an alien with the lives of 2 billion humans? Amy looked into his compound eyes and saw determination, courage, and something else. She saw hope. Yes, she said firmly. I'm ready. Morrison turned to his officers. Gentlemen, we have a war to end. Let's get to work. The human stealth ship dropped out of hyperspace near the dark moon of Kepler 438c. Through the bridge windows, Amy Foster could see the Catherian weapons facility built into the rocky surface. It looked like a metal spider with its legs dug deep into the ground. Target confirmed, Commander Morrison said quietly. All teams report ready status. Amy looked at Zephyr, who stood beside her wearing human combat armor modified for his larger frame. The alien's compound eyes studied the facility through the ship's sensors. The main entrance is heavily guarded, Zephyr said, but there is a maintenance tunnel on the eastern side. It connects to the ventilation system. Morrison nodded. How many guards? 12 at the main entrance, 6 at the tunnel entrance, and 20 more inside the facility. But most of them will be sleeping now. We chose this time carefully. Amy checked her equipment one last time. She carried a translator device, medical supplies, and a small weapon. She had never been on a combat mission before, but Morrison insisted. She'd come along to communicate with Zephyr if things went wrong. Remember, Morrison said to his team, we have 2 objectives. First, destroy the biological weapon safely. Second, get everyone home alive. Zephyr will guide us to the weapons storage area. Dr. Collins will handle the disposal. The rest of us provide security. The team consisted of 12 humans and 1 alien. Amy looked at the faces around her. These people were trusting their lives to a former enemy. She hoped the trust would not be misplaced. Launch in 5 minutes, Morrison announced that the assault shuttle was small and fast. It carried the team toward the moon's surface while staying hidden from Catherian sensors. Amy felt her stomach twist as they approached the landing zone. There, Zephyr pointed to a crater near the facility. Land behind those rocks. The sensors cannot see us there. The shuttle touched down softly. Within minutes, the team was moving across the moon's surface toward the facility. The low gravity made walking strange, but their magnetic boots kept them steady on the rocky ground. Zephyr led them to a small opening in the facility's outer wall. The maintenance tunnel, he whispered. I will go first and disable the guards. Amy watched as the alien moved silently through the tunnel. His 4 arms allowed him to move quickly while staying low. Within minutes, he returned. The guards are unconscious, he reported. They will sleep for several hours. The team moved through the tunnel into the facility's ventilation system. Amy had never been inside an alien building before. The walls were smooth and curved, with strange symbols carved into the metal. The weapon storage is 3 levels down, Zephyr said. We must be very quiet. Sound travels far in these corridors. They moved deeper into the facility, following Zephyr through passages that seemed to wind randomly through the structure. Amy began to understand how impossible this mission would have been without their alien guide. Stop, Zephyr whispered suddenly. Everyone froze. Amy could hear voices speaking in the clicking language of the Catherians. 2 guards were walking toward them from around a corner. Zephyr stepped forward and spoke to the guards in his own language. Amy watched as the guards relaxed, apparently recognizing him. Then Zephyr moved quickly, striking both guards with precise blows that knocked them unconscious. They think. I am still loyal to the High Command, he explained quietly. But not for long. They will call for a status report soon. The team moved faster now, racing against time. They reached the weapons storage level just as alarms began to sound throughout the facility. They know we are here, Morrison said grimly. How much time do we need, Dr. Collins? The scientist looked at the sealed containers that held the biological weapon. 20 minutes to neutralize it safely. Maybe 15 if we take some risks. Take the risks, Morrison ordered. We don't have 20 minutes. Kitherian soldiers began pouring into the corridor outside the storage room. Morrison and his team took defensive positions while Dr. Collins worked frantically to disable the weapon. Amy, Zefter said, I need you to help me with something. She followed him to a communication console. What do you need? I want to send a message to all Kitherian forces in this system. I want to tell them what their high command was planning. Maybe some of them will refuse to fight. Amy helped him activate the communication system. Zefter began speaking in his own language, his voice carrying through the facility and out to the Kitherian ships in space. What are you telling them? Amy asked. The truth, Zefter replied. I am telling them about the weapon, about the plan to kill civilian populations, about the humans who showed mercy to our wounded and kindness to our prisoners. The fighting outside the storage room intensified. Amy could hear weapons fire and shouting, but she also heard something else. Some of the Kitherian voices sounded confused, uncertain. It's working, she realized. Some of them are hesitating. Dr. Collins looked up from his work. Almost finished. 2 more minutes. Suddenly, a Kitherian soldier burst through the door. He raised his weapon toward Dr. Collins, but Zefter moved faster. The alien threw himself between the soldier and the human scientist. The enemy weapon fired. Amy watched in horror as Zefter fell to the ground, green blood spreading across his armor. No! Amy screamed. Morrison shot the enemy soldier, but the damage was done. Amy knelt beside Zefter, pressing her hands against his wounds. Don't die, she whispered. Please don't die. Zefter's compound eyes focused on her face. Did we stop it? Did we save them? Yes, Dr. Collins called out. The weapon is neutralized. It's over. Zefter smiled, an expression that looked strange on his alien features. Good. That is good. Amy felt tears streaming down her face. You saved 2 billion people. We saved them, Zefter corrected. Human and Kitherian, working together. The fighting outside had stopped. Amy could hear voices calling for surrender in both languages. Zefter's message had reached the Kitherian forces, and many were laying down their weapons. We need to get you medical help, Amy said, trying to stop the bleeding. Amy, Zefter said weakly, I need you to do something for me. Anything. Record a message. Send it to both our peoples. Tell them what happened here. Tell them that enemies can become friends when they choose to do what is right. Amy nodded, tears making it hard to see. I will. I promise. Zefter's antenna moved slowly. Tell them that I learned something important from humans. I learned that strength is not about who you can defeat. It is about who you choose to protect. Dr. Collins had finished his work. The biological weapon was destroyed, its deadly contents neutralized forever, but the cost had been high. Tell them, Zefter whispered, that some truths are worth more than loyalty to those who would commit evil in your name. Amy held the alien's hand as his breathing slowed. I'll tell them everything, about your courage, about your choice to do what was right. Zefter's eyes closed. Thank you, Amy Foster. Thank you for helping me find my honor. 3 days later, Amy stood before the combined fleets of humanity and the Kitherian collective. The war was over. Zefter's message had spread throughout both civilizations, causing a wave of defections and calls for peace. She activated the recording device and began to speak. My name is Amy Foster. I want to tell you about a Kitherian. warrior named Zephyr, who became a hero to both our species. He taught us that courage is not about fighting enemies. It is about choosing to protect innocent lives, even when those lives belong to people who were once your enemies. Amy looked out at the mixed crews of humans and Catherians working together on the ships around her. He showed us that the strongest bonds are not formed by those who share the same blood, but by those who share the same values. And he proved that honor is not about who you serve, but about what you choose to protect. She paused, thinking of the alien who had sacrificed everything to save people he had never met. Zephyr broke his silence because he learned that some truths are worth more than loyalty to those who would commit evil in your name. His courage saved 2 billion lives and ended a war that should never have been fought. Amy smiled through her tears. Today, we begin a new chapter, not as enemies, but as allies. Not as separate species, but as friends who choose to protect each other. The recording ended, but Amy's work was just beginning. She had a galaxy to help rebuild, and she would do it in honor of the alien warrior who had taught her that the greatest strength comes from choosing to do what is right, no matter the cost.